listeners. Welcome to another episode of Romance Unraveled. This is one of your co hosts, Jacob Bozen.
And I am Jeremy Slater, our co-host this week.
So, today we have Heather Melville with us. She actually submitted to come onto the show. I don't know her personally, but we've talked a few times about what kind of story she's going to tell. So, Heather, let's have you introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Heather Melville. I am 36 years old. I'm currently living in Tucson, Arizona. I am a toxic relationship recovery coach. So I help women who are just getting out of toxic relationships, feeling lost, confused, upset, broken, unlovable, and move them into a space where they feel invigorated and excited for life. And the reason I focus on this is because that's what I went through. And I don't want to see anybody else struggle. And I want us to all understand that we're all worthy of real love.
Yeah, that's great. You'll probably get a lot of clients from our listeners, honestly, to tell you the truth, because all of us bring our toxic stories to the show. But yeah, let's just have you start telling the story.
So it's interesting. I mean, I could tell so many different stories of those 8 years and kind of a lot of realizations I had afterwards. But I was thinking about it the other day of just how that relationship started. And it started out kind of like a movie in the sense of I had this wonderful kiss. I met him randomly, and it felt like it was like meant to be kind of thing because things didn't necessarily work out right away. So I met him a month after I had turned 21 outside of a bar randomly, and we just started hitting it off and talking. And the end of the night led to a kiss in the middle of the street, which I thought was magical. And the following week after, we couldn't get in line. We couldn't meet up. It just wasn't working out. And so it kind of faded out. And I thought nothing of it. And pan to about 3 months later in November, I like to go through my phone and delete numbers that I'm not using. I know that's kind of weird. Maybe it's the millennial in me, but I like to clear space. And so I deleted his number because I hadn't heard from him. And literally the next day, I'm not messing around here. It was literally the next day he texted me and he asked if I knew who this was. And I was like, yeah, of course. I just deleted your phone number because I didn't
That's
think I would
funny.
hear from you, right? So it kind of started, and there are a few red flags, but I think the point was that who I was then was somebody who with low self-esteem, who was desperate for a relationship, desperate for love. So I kind of ignored him, but we started off, and there's one thing that sticks out in my mind that one of my close friends at the time, not really friends anymore. I don't know if she said it out of what she saw, but she said that we would never last. It was not going to work. And it was like 2 weeks, 3 weeks into the relationship. We hadn't even defined a relationship yet. So it kind of stuck in my mind that she said that. And now in hindsight, after everything, now seeing, the way he treated me for 8 years, the abuse, not only emotionally, mentally, but occasionally physically. And I realized that I had held on to that what she said, trying to prove her wrong, that no, it would last. But so anyways, we keep going. There's a
Isn't it
few.
funny? I'm just gonna comment on this a little bit. It's funny how our friends from the outside perspective can really see the things that we're not seeing.
Right. Well, and see, that's what I was wondering though. And I realized she's not my friend anymore, and I thought, well, maybe she sees something, but then at the same time I realized it was just her own jealousy and ego. And that's why I was like fighting. I was fighting it because I knew it wasn't coming from a place where she saw something. It was coming from a place where she was just jealous and feeling insignificant. And
Okay.
so it's a bummer that, because you're right, our friends do see things out from the outside, and I always say thank you and apologize to my close friends now who have been with me through the relationship and obviously saw everything, and they too experienced some emotional mental abuse from him as well. So I always apologize. But so we kept going, despite her comment. And again, those red flags started popping up. One of them was 3 to 4 months into the relationship, we had plans. He didn't text me, and I was like, okay, well, that's weird. But 2 days go by and he still hadn't texted me. And I mean, like,
2 days.
right,
Oh
I
my
know.
God.
And you're thinking, okay, 2 days in a relationship in the beginning, that's not a big deal, right? But when you've made plans, that's when I think it's different, right? We set plans, hey, I'm gonna call you and come over at this time, and you hear nothing from them. It's like, are they dead in a ditch somewhere? Like, what
Yeah.
happened?
Good Lord.
Right? So I think it's the third day, he showed up at my doorstep bloody, and no phone, no, like, he had I think it was an Uber or somebody had dropped him off. He didn't have any money. So apparently he had gotten really drunk and jumped, and they stole his car keys, his phone, his wallet. And
Oh, shoot.
right, right. And so this is where I started thinking, feeling bad for this person, right? Feeling bad for my ex, that, like, wow, he's getting hurt. Like, people are, constantly after him. It wasn't till later that I realized, well, he got so drunk that he started mouthing off to somebody. He started really pushing him. And I could start to see that he instigates a lot of these just by being a complete ass, excuse me. But and so, we still continue, and I'm starting to see these. I'm starting to see his anger. I'm starting to see the way he treats other people. And that, I think, is a key factor when it comes to relationships and understanding, like, is this person right for you? How do they treat other people? Not just you because they're in love, or they're wanting you to see the better side of them, but how do they treat even just strangers? Or, like, a good one is, how do they treat people at a restaurant, people that are waiting on them? Because that's a key,
Definitely.
Amen. Amen
right?
to that.
Right? If they're going to treat a total stranger with disrespect, odds are it's going to come your way at some point. So I started to see those, and it was about a year in, and he liked to do these things where he called them guys' nights. And it was pretty much every weekend that he would go out with his guys. And I realized that it was a chance for him. I don't know if it was just him trying to find something better and still knowing he had something for sure at home waiting for him, or if it was just him to get his rocks off by flirting with other women. But he would play the wingman, quote unquote, for his guy friends, whether they asked for it or not. And I was naive. I was 21 and was happy to be in a relationship. So I was like, whatever, and maybe this is typical. It was my first relationship too. So one night he does this, and I was fine because I'm not a big drinker. I'm not a big going out and partying. Also, I had experienced a couple of times going out with him where a gentleman would smile in my direction and there would be a fight afterwards. So
Wow.
I was like,
Mm.
yeah, I know, right? I mean, like, what do you want me to have, a resting, bitch face, and therefore nobody ever looks at me and approaches me? I'm sorry, that's not the way it works around here.
Right.
So he goes out, and I stayed home, and his roommate was dating one of my coworkers. So we had a good time. We're just, singing and laughing and dancing. And I mean, it rolls around to be like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and he comes barging in and immediately throws a punch. And I'm just shocked because I'm like, where did this come from? Here I am sitting up waiting for you and being the, ideal girlfriend, and I get hit in the face. What
Oh
the
my
hell was that?
God.
I
I'm
know.
so
And
sorry.
yeah, well, I mean, you live and you learn, right? But and then, so I guess I had, when I changed into my pajamas, I kind of threw things. Well, he comes back into the living room and starts, getting ready to throw more punches. And
Did you know
I'm
why?
well, one, he was really drunk, and he kind of had this idea that I was cheating on him in some way. And then, because my underwear was on the ground, he thought that, and I'm like, Are you kidding me? We've been here alone. It's been me and the girl who's still sleeping, hopefully not hearing all of this, because how mortified and embarrassing and shameful is it that I'm screaming, don't hit me.
Right.
And yeah, so, and it was such a weird experience. I'd never experienced that. I'd heard other people and I was like, I've never experienced abuse before. And I didn't think of it as abuse at the time. I thought of it as a single moment of him being enraged, being confused, and creating some, story in his head of me cheating on him. And I still stayed the next day. He was upset and apologizing and saying it would never happen again. And I was being the sweet girlfriend and went to Trader Joe's and got us snacks so we could just lay in bed all day. And it didn't stop from there. It kept going, and it was repeated nights of alcohol, of him drinking to excess, of him coming home and being enraged. Now, not every night was, physical. In fact, I would say probably maybe 15 times in our relationship. So over the course of 8 years, 15 times. It's not, that's like on average 1.5 per year. Actually almost two. But the
That's
hard,
still way too many.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
one is way too many, right? One is way too many. And it took me a long time to kind of realize that I didn't deserve this. And that was the key point that I also wanted to share with the people I coach. You don't have to suffer to be worthy. And that's something that I realized in hindsight that I was putting myself through. I believed I needed to suffer in order to be worthy of love. But it, it's a challenge still. And what I've come to realize is that I almost I didn't need to in order to be worthy, but this experience has made me into the person I am now, the type of person who loves themselves unconditionally. Yeah, I have flaws, so does everybody else, but I accept them, and if I can change them, I try. If I can't, then I accept and love them even more. Somebody who is open to love still, and that's the big thing too, is being able not only to trust others but to trust yourself after something like that, because I lost trust in myself,
Right.
believing that I didn't trust my intuition, and how could I put myself through this, and kind of realizing that I had this crazy idea that I had to go through this in order to get real love.
Yeah.
And
I'm
So,
cur
go ahead,
you go ahead.
Jeremy.
I'm curious of your process of resilience and like rationalization and like once you're in this abusive situation, like are there any tools or like strategies that you found that helped you navigate and like exit the situation and then learn from it? Like I'm curious if you see you're very strong and you're coaching people at the moment about these situations. So I'm just wondering like what was your process of finding the resilience to get through it and to help people avoid the situation that you were in?
so it's kind of it's interesting because I have to reflect, right? Because I didn't realize it at the time. And there's no one quick fix trying to get out of those things. It takes one, it takes realization, but the big thing for me was I needed space away from him. And that's the one thing with all toxic relationships. When you're in it, when you're next to them all the time, even if you realize that it's toxic, it's now a neurological thing. Now it's in your brain. You're addicted to the highs and lows because of the dopamine release. The amygdala, that's your fear conditioning, is just going crazy. So you're always in this fight or flight mode. So your brain is rewired for this. And so it takes the space. Now, I'm not talking just going to work and coming back home. What happened was, and another little story, my ex was going to P or he was studying to be kind of a nurse to go to PA school, physician assistant. And so he was waiting to apply to get into school, but he had recently got a DUI, which was really holding him back. And this goes back to accountability. It's a very sexy quality when a man is accountable for their actions, but he did not have that
Period.
quality. He basically said the DUI was not his fault. And I'm like, well, you drive under the influence often. Odds are you're going to be pulled over at some point. But anyways, so he was struggling, but he said to me that when he got in, he would go dip out to Europe for 6 months, and that I had to find my own way over there. And this is 6 years into the relationship. So I was shocked. I was like, well, aren't we in a relationship when you want to try and figure out how we both could go together? And so I was like, okay, fine. So I figured it out. And so my previous job was electrical engineering. And so I figured out electrical engineering internship in Germany and kind of figured out a way to pay for it because I was broke all the time paying for his alcoholism.
Oh
And
God.
so I got
Jeez.
the internship.
Oh
I
my
got the,
goodness.
oh, go ahead, Jeremy. What were you going to say?
This story is just so,
Yeah, I know.
okay.
Sometimes I reflect back and I'm like, that's what I've been through, huh? Interesting.
At least you got to see Germany with it.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I this is my point is that that space, so he didn't come with me because he didn't get into PA school. And of course he resented me because I was like, well, I got this opportunity. I'm still gonna go. I have to.
Hell yeah.
So
Ciao.
yeah. So I ended up living in Germany for 6 months, and I do regret the fact that we stayed in a relationship because still, even however many miles away, he's on in California, and he's still wanting one to kind of control me a little bit by making sure that we're on the phone 5 hours a day. And so I couldn't even enjoy myself, and then would constantly get drunk and call me and say these nasty things, pick on every insecurity I ever had or ever told him about. And so but that time over there, that space away, and it started to plant a seed in my head, like, wait a minute, okay, like I can do things on my own. I don't need him. And that's where the resilience come in. And this is where I say to everybody, even if they've never been in a toxic relationship, travel solo. Go somewhere by yourself
I
for,
agree.
and it doesn't have to be 6 months, but it could be like 2 weeks. Because I swear, when you get off that plane and you're in a different country and there's no English signs anywhere, and you're like, how the hell do I get to my Airbnb or hostel? Oh, it's all on me. And it just builds this resilience, like I can handle whatever happens because I've lived in another country by myself and figured it out. So it comes down to giving yourself that space to be able to see the patterns, and then also finding the resilience. I know you said like strategies of resilience. For me, that was figuring things out on my own, making decisions on my own. And it gets hard, right? Because you're gaslit the whole time, telling you that you're crazy, you're being manipulated. So making decisions, even the smallest one for me, sometimes I would go to the grocery store and buy something, and I would just hear a mouthful of how stupid I was for buying something. So that was a big thing to learn, is to trust myself, be able to make decisions, and if those decisions are not the right ones, that I'll handle it, that I'll figure it out. And
Yeah.
so
Right. Does that go in line with, you mentioned a lot of shame that you felt? Like, how did you, shame is like one of the worst feelings, I,
yeah.
in my opinion. Like, do you think the process of being away and having distance helped alleviate those feelings, or was it like an active sort of like fighting my thoughts about the shame that I feel?
Well, so the shame you're going to feel during, and you do feel it even afterwards as well, because you start to come from a clear head of like, what the hell was I thinking? Allowing such treatment, being hit more than a dozen times and in public. So it took me a while to And even now, sometimes it kind of pops back in my head when I think about those memories. I think about how it didn't just affect me, it affected my family and my friends as well. And how their judgment, even if they're trying not to judge, I can feel it and I still feel shameful. So with that, even when I was over there, I had met friends who didn't know about the relationship, didn't know who he was. So I felt better. I felt better maybe about the relationship, but maybe about myself more than anything. And he came over and visited me halfway through, actually only like a month before I was coming back, he visited and he hit me in front of one of my new friends. And that was another level of shame that I allowed
Wow.
this, that I portrayed this strength to these people because one, I was much older than a lot of the friends that I had made, and I was still allowing this. And to kind of go back to that, like you kind of have to excuse yourself in a way that it's like I didn't know what I didn't know at that time, kind of thing, that allows you to be like, okay, I don't have to feel shameful that I went through this experience because, I had low self-esteem. I was desperate for love. I had fear of being alone. Um, that kind of helps alleviate the shame a little bit, because you're still being there for this treatment and you're still wondering, are other relationships better or am I just going to fall into the same thing again? Um, so it's very hard to get over the shame. That's probably the biggest thing that I try to help my clients with is getting past that shameful part, because that shameful part is what stops you from really healing, stops you from being your true self, and stops you from believing that you're worthy, because you're in this mode of like a little child being shameful in the corner kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the other thing to alleviate the shame is to realize that it's not necessarily all on you, right? You didn't warrant this treatment. It's them projecting their pain. And that was a big lesson too, is he was hurting. He was suffering from PTSD. That doesn't excuse him for any of the treatment, but he was projecting that pain onto me. And so I realized that the pain he was causing me had nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with him. And that allowed me to kind of let go a little bit as well. And then again, going back to that, my brain was wired to be accepting this. I mean, it took a while, but I was stuck in this because I was used to it, because my brain was like, oh, but if I let go, I'll be alone. So kind of giving yourself the grace that it's not all you and that there is a way out kind of helps you alleviate some of that shame a little bit.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
beautiful.
I'm curious, how did the relationship end? Did he like go berserk on you?
No, actually. So again, this is where giving yourself the space, the actual physical space. And they talk about that women break up 6 months before they actually break up. I don't know if that's just women or men as well, but I mean, in my mind, I broke up with them years ago. But so what happened is I got back from Germany. We lived together for another year. Again, many more instances, and he really messed up at my cousin's wedding. So my dad never yells. He's yelled at me once in my life, and he yelled at him. And I was like, wow, you got my dad to yell? This is not going to work. But
What did he do?
well, he was just pushing him. My ex liked to do that a little bit. He would get drunk and he would pester and he would push people, and it was about basically dad's parenting, like saying that um uh I wished dad would call me more, and excuse me. So my ex kept pushing my dad, saying you need to talk to her more, you need to, basically telling him how to live his life. And that was a big thing my ex thought he was better than everybody else and that he knew better and knew how to live life better. Obviously not, because he was
Yeah.
upset all the time.
As
But
if he has any grounds for that.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. And so when I got back, I was transferring, so I needed to transfer and finish my degree in electrical engineering. But the only schools that would take me, because this was a second degree for me, were out of out of state, and so I moved to Northern Arizona, which is, it's just so interesting too, because with most toxic relationship, it's like it's the extreme one where they have so much control that they'd never let you move. However, we needed money. We needed money to sustain his alcoholism, so he was the one who pushed me into engineering anyways. And so I moved to Flagstaff, and I started to, I had that space to have clear thoughts. And I remember too, I was hiking because I loved hiking, and I was hiking on this mountain, and it hit me. I'd rather be alone than be in this relationship any longer, because I was already feeling alone in the relationship, and I had held on to the relationship because I was scared of being alone. But I got to the point where I'd rather be alone than endure one more day of this. And so I actually broke up with him through text. uh, and so he called me because I was flying at the time. And so he called me when I landed, and I was driving home, and we had this long conversation, and I basically told him I wasn't in love with him anymore, and I couldn't get past all the resentment. And he knew, like, we stopped having sex, and he loved to tell everybody about that. And so it was actually pretty easy, to be honest. Granted, we were 2 states away, so he didn't go crazy on me or anything like that. I think he had already kind of understood. And actually, I will say we had taken a couple of times, we took a month-long break because he said something stupid, and I was like, I need a break. And so he saw it was coming. And so thankfully he did not go berserk. He did that whole week after, kept trying to text me, kept trying to say, let me come see you. And I was like, absolutely not. We are done. We are over. And I dropped him hard. I just was like, I blocked his number. I didn't respond to anything. I cut his family completely off of like Facebook and stuff, because I didn't think it was fair for them to still see updates about me, because I loved his family, and that was a big reason of why I stayed as well. So yeah, thankfully no crazy reactions, but
Yeah, I'm glad about that actually.
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah,
I,
God
I I
bless.
know not everybody has that opportunity to have such a easy, I would say, breakup.
So, where are you at now? I mean, from what I know, it seems like you found something much better.
Absolutely, 100%. So I am currently engaged with my fiance. We've been together now for 6, yeah, 6 years. 6 years. And and I fought it hard when we first met, because I was like, no, I finally got my freedom after 8 years. I don't want to be in another relationship for a long time. And actually, by doing that, I had no expectations of him or myself. I was completely myself, because I was like, I don't need to prove to you that I'm any certain way. Because I'm not looking for a relationship. And, that led the doors open to really be in love with somebody. And so he and I mean, don't get me wrong, right? Every healthy relationship is going to have conflict. If you don't have conflict, it means you're not being authentic in the relationship, because you got two people from two different backgrounds, two different ideas coming together. You're just going to have conflict. And caveat, so we spent a year converting a shuttle bus into a custom built RV. And we now currently live in it, and we've been living in it for about 2 years. So if you don't have conflict now, try living in 80 square feet together and see if you have conflict then.
Yeah, yeah. I bet
Gosh.
it saves you a lot of money too, so that could be a good aspect to the relationship as well.
Yeah. Well, and that's a great point you bring up because I read a lot, and a lot of what I read is they talk about why relationships fail, and financial is a big reason because you're not in line. And so we have kind of, I mean, he taught me a lot of things, and I owe a lot to him in the sense that he changed my mind about finances and how to be smart with money. There's still a few things that he's like struggling to spend on, and I'm like, let's go to Puerto Rico, let's go travel.
I'm on your
I
But
side
mean,
for that.
you probably
yeah,
felt like you won the lottery since you didn't have to spend all the money on alcoholism.
right, exactly. I said, well, and I also realized too, as much as most of my money went to the alcoholism, I also was not smart with money, and he was not smart with money. Like we put ourselves in debt. Um, but then, I met my fiance, and he's not from America. And so the opportunities here for him, he really is like, this is an opportunity. So he's very smart with money, helped me figure out how to pay off my student loans very quickly. And now I'm in a position where I'm financially okay as I start building my business. But yeah, it's a complete 180. Never experienced this. And now I start to realize that this is love. This is what really love feels like. And what I had previously with my ex was not. I can't even call it the same type of love. And I start to realize that it was more attachment than anything else. And
Definitely.
yeah,
Just to be explicit for the listeners, what does love feel like?
it feels like it feels like taking a deep breath and exhaling and just being completely comfortable with who you are, happy, blissful, and just so hopeful, and knowing that no matter what, somebody is going to love you on the days where you're feeling great and exuberant and sexy and happy. And they're also going to love you on those days when you're feeling like crap, when you're at your lowest, when you don't feel confident, and they're going to be there to boost you. And also, they're going to love you even when they're mad at you, when they're fighting with you, and it's just such a relief. And to know that there's always someone in my corner, no matter what life is thrown at me, whatever I'm dealing with, there's always someone there who's going to support me, who's going to love me for who I am. And the other thing is, love allows you to grow. And we need to grow, right? Because if we're not growing, we're just dying. And real love, you grow together. And it's just like it. I picture the you ever see how this the Grinch Stole Christmas, the cartoon one, at the
With the
end when,
heart, yeah.
yeah, and his heart just expands, and that's what it feels like for me. Just my heart has expanded so much, and that kind of love carries over in the way you treat everybody else as well. And that's what I talk about too in a lot of my webinars and stuff, that why are relationships so important to me? Because relationships are life. Like when you're upset with your ex, and I had this many times, and you go to work or you go see your friends, it taints that time. Like you're just upset about the relationship. So then you're upset at work, you're upset with your friends. And so having a good relationship, one filled with love, it makes the rest of your relationships even better.
Right. Thanks for coming on, Heather. The story was great. Really quickly, where can people find you if they want to learn more about your practice?
So my website is healthyrelationships.info. I do newsletters through there. I mean, you can just sign up to be on the newsletter. I also send out information about the webinars I hold monthly that kind of go through how to get out of a toxic relationship, how to heal from it. And then Instagram as well. It's healthyrelationships.coach. So that those are places you can find me.
Awesome. Great. Yeah. And I'll tag you on our posts as well. For our listeners, as always, make sure you subscribe and save. We're streaming anywhere you can get your podcasts. And make sure you rate us as well. That helps us in the algorithms. If you haven't already, follow us on social media. It's Romance Unraveled on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And if you'd like to share a story, you can submit on there or message me directly. Until next time.